All right, today's Wednesday, August 17th. The time is 7 o'clock. I call this meeting to order. Will you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1.04, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Ms. Ewers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 2.01, approval modification of minutes from the August 3rd, 2022 Governing Board meeting.
So moved?
I'll second.
Moved by Ewers, seconded by Trejo. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 3.01, presentation to the board, school safety. Mr. Ontiveros.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, I'm here this evening to give an overview of our district's safety and security program. Along with me tonight is Sergeant Joey Brunock. He's with the Tempe Police Department. He's our SRO sergeant. He's here to answer questions if there are any at the end of the presentation. I want to begin by saying Tempe Elementary is dedicated to safety and security. It's been our commitment. I've been in charge of safety and security for the last 10 years, but that dedication goes beyond the 10 and a half years that I've been here. After the tragedy in Uvalde, it was an opportunity for us to take a look at what we can improve on and what we need to do moving forward. So we've spent the last couple of months walking sites with all of the principals. I've been working with Dave's department and some of the other departments in resolving any issues that have come up in those site walks. Every 5 years, we do a threat mitigation walk through the estate's anti-counterterrorism information center. So that happens every 5 years. So this commitment has been going through history. So our safety and security, it's layers. So the overall program is layers. So this graphic demonstrates how that works. It's through physical security, our protocols, and through staff training. So our physical security, we have 100% perimeter fencing. So every campus is 100% enclosed by a security fence. Every building has exterior doors close and lock during the school day. One of our points of emphasis has been no propped doors, no unlocked exterior doors. All of our classroom doors, interior doors are locked now. That's something that we've changed since last school year. All of this creates a single point of entry through the front office. So once the school day starts, visitors to campus, they must enter through the front office and be granted permission onto campus. So once you do come to the front office and you sign in, everyone has to have proper identification. So employees must be wearing their safety or their security badge, clearly visible. If there's an adult or person, high school age or older, they should be properly identified. So once they sign into that front office, they're given a badge and they are escorted through the campus. If you're out on campuses during the school day or morning or afternoon, you'll see that staff are wearing reflective vests. And this is a way of identifying them easily from afar, that it's someone that is associated with the campus and that can provide assistance if needed. It also provides visibility for them if they happen to be working out in the traffic areas of the school. So it does serve multiple purposes. And as I mentioned, all visitors must sign in and sign out at the front office. So every school conducts emergency drills throughout the year. And this includes lockdown drills and fire drills or evacuation drills. We did make some changes to the lockdown drills, and I'll go over that in a little later in the presentation, but those are conducted throughout the school year. Our staff training, so I think it was 4 years ago now, we started doing safety and security training at our new certified staff orientation. So this gave our incoming teachers and other certified staff a head start in what our safety and security posture is. Starting this year, there's a mandatory safety and security video that all employees must watch. That's an update for us. As school staffs conduct their drills, one of the things that's important for them are to do after actions reviews or debriefs with staff, with their team. And this is the opportunity when we're doing drills to identify weaknesses and come up with improvements for those, and to see what did go well and where we can continue going down that path. So that's an important part of the overall drills that schools conduct. We want to do more tabletop scenarios with principals throughout the school year, so not just at one time or infrequently. We want it to become a regular part of the principals' meetings throughout the year, and that's something we're going to work with the Tempe Police Department on. And the same with training for our district and administrative employees, so those that are housed here at the Sanchez building and at Bustos. We want to make sure that we're giving them the proper training. The Tempe Police Department has a unit that will come out and discuss or train employees on like active shooter and those kinds of topics. So through this summer, these are the additional security measures that we developed. So all classroom doors are now locked during the school day. So anytime a student is in a classroom, that door is locked, closed and locked. We made modification to lockdown drills. So every school did a lockdown drill within the first 2 weeks of school. As we build new schools, they're designed with additional security measures, safety measures in place. And moving forward, we want to go back to our existing schools and retrofit those schools so that every campus is on the same, as secure as they can be. If you're in a school or if you're in a classroom or common area in a school, you'll see something like this. It's a chart basically with the basic or our emergency response procedures, and these are meant to be just a reminder. It's something that you may see hopefully daily, but at least frequently when you're in a classroom. And it's just a reminder of what each of the procedures are: our lockout procedure, the lockdown procedure, and so on. This also is posted in every classroom and common area in the school. And again, it's just a reminder of the path you take if you need to evacuate the building. So those are just things that teachers and staff can see frequently when they're in their rooms. Every school has a school incident command team, and this is the team that's in charge of operations during an emergency. There'll be the initial group that's going to lead the response to an emergency. And as we get more resources to that campus, then they will assist in the response. But they're the ones that are going to be initially responsible for what's going on at the school. They're also the team that develops the plans that are specific for their schools. So the district provides this general procedures for lockout, lockdown, evacuation, but every campus has its own smaller details that need to be worked out there on the campus. So that's something that the team, along with me, and if we need to have law enforcement involved in that, we will assist with that, but that's their core responsibility. So our law enforcement partners, our biggest one, because we have the most schools in their jurisdiction, is the Tempe Police Department. And as I mentioned, we have our amazing SRO sergeant here today, or this evening, representing the Tempe Police Department. And then we have the Phoenix Police Department, where Nevitt is in their jurisdiction, and then the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, where Frank is in their jurisdiction. We're working on improving our relationships with both of those jurisdictions. We just had a meeting with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office last week at Frank, and it was a great beginning, I suppose, of just getting some contacts with more than just the deputy that is assigned there at Frank. So it was a great opportunity, and I look forward to being able to work with them more. So that's a quick overview of the safety and security program. If there's questions for me or for Sergeant Brudnock, I'm happy to answer those now.
It's yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Ernie, for doing that. I know your job is really hard right now and scary for all of us, because we just don't know what people are going to do right now, especially to our loved ones. And we've had some incidents here already in Arizona that have been unacceptable. And so I'm grateful that we have you on board. I feel better that it is you, because I've seen what you've done in the past and how you've kept our kids safe for almost a decade. So thank you. I do have a few questions. We could just kind of go down them if you don't mind. How is everyone informed when we have this? How are the teachers informed? Like if it's a lockout, if it's a lockdown, if it's a, I know the parents want to know.
Yeah, okay, so there's a couple of different scenarios. What can happen if there's something going on in the neighborhood, we'll use that as an example. In the neighborhood of a school, the police department will contact the school's front office and advise them that they need to go into a lockdown. They'll always tell them to go into lockdown. So the school will initiate that response via intercom. Okay. Once we get rolling into that scenario, we have a district crisis line. So someone at the school will contact that phone number, and it's an answering service. And they'll take the message, and they get that message back to me or to Jessica Palmer. And from there, we start developing a plan or just giving the school information if that's what we need to do. A lot of times also I get information from Sergeant Brudnock about what's going on. So that helps the school determine whether or not they need to stay on a lockdown or if they can ease it up a little bit into a lockout. That's the communication within the school. Communicating out to parents, we'll start working with Brittany's department on developing communication out to families. And we're just trying to gather information and present that to parents as best as we can.
What is the response time? I know all of our schools are in different geographical locations, but let's say we have the highest alert. What do you think our average response time from us, SROs, and the city of Tempe, what do they predict it will be based on their already planned?
I think I'll have the sergeant come up to help answer that question.
Hi, everybody. Again, my name's Joey Brudnock with the Tempe Police Department, Dr. Driscoll. I oversee the School Resource Officer Unit for Tempe. We can probably be on any campus within a couple of minutes. It depends the time of day, if officers are on other calls, but, we're lucky to be part of the school safety program, the Safe Schools program. So we have 3 SROs at 3 of our middle schools. So for those schools, obviously we have an officer right there, but for the other elementary schools, I think our response time would be several minutes at most. And that's why I think our partnership with Ernie and Jessica and everything we do, we just need, the schools to go into their proper procedure if they have to go into lockdown, and we will be there in a couple of minutes.
On site?
Yes.
Okay. Then what is the argument for or against locking the kids in the classroom instead of getting them out? What is the philosophy behind that? Have you found that it's safer? I get a lot of parents who are concerned, shouldn't we just be getting them out of the campus? And it depends on the situation, obviously. But let's say the one that everyone's worried about is if we have Uvalde, right? Let's just go there, because that's the one that is in everybody's mind and breaks our hearts. So,
I guess I could answer. I mean, everything's going to depend on the situation.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to default to going into a lockdown and putting the kids safely in a classroom, locked doors. But it's going to have to work with staff and everybody to see what's going on. If there's a threat happening right here and then they need to move, then a lot of common sense has to come into factor. We've got to move, you know. They teach run, hide, fight in the workplace. You know, run, hide, I think works well in the elementary school level, but the fight part isn't something with young children we don't, you know, adhere to as much. But I think a lot of it is just based on the situation. I think if they default to their training and their protocols to go into lockdown first, and then, you know, law enforcement's coming, all the things are going to happen. But if there's a situation where, you know, I guess to tell parents, if a situation is happening and there's an active incident here, then what we need is then staff to make a critical decision there and move the kids to another location. So
And our
you shouldn't
staff-
always default on lockdown in their classroom, but if the threat's there, then move away from the threat.
and how are they being informed? Like, how are they getting this information of the guys on the east side of the campus, the guys on the west side of the campus, the classrooms, you know, 10, 15, 22, get out? Like, how are we communicating quickly and efficiently with the teachers? Because they're our guardians at that moment.
You want to answer that?
That would probably be through intercom, the intercom system. We also, depending on what the situation is, we have it's called the incident status sheet, but it has a column in it for running dialogue about what the situation is. But I'm gonna guess in a situation where it's very active like that, it's gonna be over the intercom or law enforcement shouting direction as they move through a building. The other thing I wanted to add about being locked in classrooms, if students are safely locked into their classroom, that's probably the safest place for them to be in that moment. Again, if the situation is evolving, then the teacher will need to make a decision on whether or not they need to stay in there. But if they're already in there, that's going to be the safest location for them to be.
And they can get out in a case of a fire, no problem.
And they can get out. And that's part of our lockdown procedure that teachers follow. There's part of that is so that they can, so where they have students in the classroom, that is, the purpose of that is so that they can get out if they need to.
And know how to do that.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any plan so there was the lockdown trainings this weekend, and I know that some of the teachers and the students, and I've spoken to different levels, it wasn't too consistent and everyone was a little scared to talk about it and not scare the kids. Is there any plan to do, because this is new to all of us. I mean, it's not new. We've had Columbine, we've had so many horrible instances, but it's just becoming more prevalent than we ever thought before. Is there any plan to do a video that is consistent, that would go either school-wide for that specific school or district-wide, so that it takes a little bit of the burden off the non-professionals of what to do if a shooter comes into your room, and that is psychologically, like working with Care 7 or something like that, that would psychologically help the kids not be afraid to come to school?
So you're asking if we're planning on, if there's plans in works for training students, basically, and not relying.
And the teachers.
Yes. Actually, I am meeting with Ms. Schneckloff tomorrow. We're going to talk about that situation. Like, well, how do we present information to students? Like, what do we need to do as far as we're not trying to scare anyone when we're doing these drills, but inevitably we do in our process, and that's not necessarily what we want. So yes, there is. We're going to work on that. We're working on that.
Okay. And then if there is a situation, what is either the current system or what are we striving to have for letting the parents know about what's going on, where they should go, and what we need from them to keep it safe?
Ms. Franklin, do you want to?
Yeah, Ms. Ewers, members of the board. We obviously have access to a whole variety of communication tools, and every situation does vary on the best communication tool, as well as each school community is a little different. So a lot of times in these situations, once we do have the facts and we're able to share those with parents, I obviously talk with Ernie and his team, but I always speak with the principal first and say, okay, what level are we at? How important is it? How urgent? Text is probably one of the quickest, but for some school communities, they don't check their text. So in those situations, we'll divert to maybe a phone message, and we can do phone messages as well, which will go straight to the parent's voicemail. But we have access, obviously, to social media, marquees, email, text, phone calls, web banners. We can kind of do a whole blitz on that if we need to. And in those communications where we would direct parents to safely pick up kids, that they're all safe, what we could do, things like that. So it really does depend on the situation in the school community, but we're able to access all of that. The really important piece that we're really trying to remind parents right now is to keep it up to date. It's no good if their phone number's not accurate, if their email has changed. So they really need to tell the schools when things like that change, otherwise they won't get the messages.
Very good. That's a good note to self, because I didn't even think about that. So with that said, though, does each school have a location? Like, I'm just going to use Hudson because I'm familiar with the neighborhood. So something happens at Hudson, the meetup is Safeway parking lot, because we know it's away from the area. The odds are, you can't make it the park because it could be in the park, right? You can't make it the playground because it could be in the playground. But the odds would be against us that it would be, I don't know why I said Safeway, Sprouts parking lot. So is there, and this is not an ad for Sprouts, is there a way to already have, here's what I'm getting at. We have a group of people in our community who don't trust the system. And I don't know that you're telling me the system, I'm in the system, so I know more about the system. But it's really important that they trust. And so I want to make sure that they know, okay, here's game plan. You get a text, there's something crazy going on, and we will get your kids to Sprouts. In the event of the most heightened, like everybody likes transparency, everybody likes a plan. Hopefully we would never have to be in the Sprouts parking lot, ever, ever, ever. But I would know to not go to the school and not bring my dad's gun that he gave me at Christmas when I was, 25 years old as gift and hand down from granddad, and not bother you guys. Let you guys do your business. So that's what I'm getting at. Is like, we need to make sure that we're extremely transparent, that we know what we're doing. We know it takes about 2 minutes to get there. We know our teachers are pushing those doors and they're pulling on them and making sure they're locked. We know our kids are locked in and we're making sure of it. We have these things going on, and parents, we're going to get a hold of you in one of these measures. Make sure you have your stuff updated. But in the case of the worst scenario, we want you to report to boom, and there's a police officer that's at Sprouts or something, So do we have plans going on to continue to expand? I need you guys to just look on it. And so I feel you're on it. I know you're on it. How do we prevent what happened at El Mirage?
And I guess I'll just chime in. We do have plans, but part of the communication is once we know the severity, we work with law enforcement. So we wouldn't be evacuating if there was a school shooter. We wouldn't just start evacuating people and saying, go in here. Right. We would wait till law enforcement tells us it's safe to start evacuating. Then we start communicating with families. Here's where we're going. Right. Sometimes it might be we're getting on a bus and going to the high school. Right. We have certain locations that we would go, but depending on where the action is would dictate to us where we're going. So we wouldn't say, hey, if there's a God forbid, at Cali, something going on, we're going to go to the Sprouts parking lot, because it might not be Sprouts. Because the way to get off that campus, it wouldn't go to Sprouts. It might go other way in the neighborhood.
Because of the situation. I know.
It's situational, but that's why we practice. And that's what I try to tell parents all the time. Why you practice these, just in case it does happen, so people know. One of the things that happens is human error. Yeah. They leave a door open, even though we tell them, lock the doors, and they leave it open. Yeah. Those are layers that help the police to get there. So we're not going to be able to prevent a shooter coming on our campus, what we're trying to prevent is that they don't get access to us as quick as possible. So by having doors locked, that means that's more time that it would take to them to get to our students, which means more time for the police to get on the scene to actually help and intervene. So evacuation routes, depending on the situation, there's different routes that we would go, but really, if there's a situation that puts kids in harm, it's gonna be the police telling us, okay, it's safe now to start evacuating people out, and then that's when we start sending out communication. Now, I would tell you, if their communication, as Ms. Franklin said, is not up to date in the system, that's gonna be a problem. And coming from another system where we had to evacuate people out, that was a huge problem with people's numbers weren't up to date, their emails. So we will contact the numbers we have in our system, but they still need to update that. And that's why we tell parents every year, have you moved? Have you changed your address? Have you update all your information? Because in those situations, we have it, but that we can only communicate with the information that we have.
So, and I know that you're talking about, we have drills, right? And the kids have drills, and I've already seen them happen at every one of our schools. The parents had no drill. So that's the concern, is they just don't, they haven't participated in a drill, they haven't seen a drill, they don't know. That's why we're doing this today, so they want to know. That's why I'm like being really stressful on the processes.
And
I
I
know
guess-
we have to trust, but.
I guess, I don't necessarily know we ever have a drill for, we're gonna call parents to say we're having an emergency, go here.
Right.
But the drill would be, when we send you a communication, we need you to pick up your phone. Like, if there's a situation that is intense, we're gonna communicate with the family as soon as it's applicable, possible for us to do. And normally, the law enforcement is telling us that we can do that, and we will direct them, go pick up your kid at Sprouts. And we would have people on the scene from the district and the school, making sure that Johnny goes with mom, not Johnny with anybody, to ensure that they get to the appropriate person. But we don't do drills for parents to say, hey, all right, we're gonna do a all call and call you to
Right.
Sprouts.
Right.
That we do drills for our students and keeping all the staff at the school safe, and then how will we communicate it out? So we have communication like that. We do it on a daily basis when you see our communication go out to families, whether it's a nice story or news in the news. That's our practice of how quickly we can get communication out to our families. But in those situations, it really is a partnership with our law enforcement. And for us, Tempe is really great. With Phoenix and Maricopa County, there are situations that come up that's why we work with them to say, hey, we need to be in close, because if there's something that ever happens on campus, they have different protocols than the city of Tempe might have. And so we work with them to make sure that we can keep our kids safe and that we're following the protocols that they have in their jurisdiction so that we can do that. And that's ultimately it. That's why we practice. And I know parents get upset with lockdown drills because it is I have reservations about active shooter with elementary kids because it's a scary thing. And I would say before we ever would share and do that we would have that available to parents so they can see it and opt out of it if they don't want their kid to participate in that, because I've seen it at the high school level. There are videos out there for active shooters and what you do, but they are graphic. And our parents in our community, I believe, would push back if we showed some video like that without giving them the consent to see it and make sure they want their kid to be a part of it.
Well, yeah, I think my point is to make sure that it's age appropriate. And I don't know, I know that it's been like, some of the younger teachers were like, oh my God, I didn't even want to tell the kids kind of what I was doing, but I knew I had to do it. And they know they have to do it. And the kids are actually pretty aware at this point, unfortunately. But and then the older kids, it's a little bit easier because they're like, okay, we get it. And we, I'm aware of what's going on, or I understand it, and I'm not as scared. So that's why I'm saying I don't know that it could be, like I talked about it being school or elementary level, or like that's why I said with psychologists or something, so that all kindergarten, level, all first grade about this. And I don't know if that's possible. I know it's a ton of work, all of that, but it's just something that came up that was uncomfortable and a little bit of inconsistency. Yeah. So that's why I brought that up. And then, how will they be informed? I think those were my main things. And you helped reiterate some of the things that I have thought when I was getting those questions too. So that's why I asked you here so that you could announce it live where people could watch it later, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Lemon, Ms. Trejo, either of you, before I speak? Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a little bit of background on it. I got to have the honor, I guess, or responsibility of creating the first crisis management plan at the high school I was working at. This is, very long time ago. And so I got to dive into some of this in a very surface way when I was creating that, and have lived through several drills and actual incidents. And to Ms. Ewer's point, I understand why parents want that. I'm a parent of 3 children in 3 different schools. But as much as we all would love to know the plan, it's amazing how much people don't follow plans in those moments. We forget, we think that we know better, or we just want our kid and we go to a different location, sometimes show up at the school, which puts more chaos and more people at risk at that moment. And I saw it just last year at the school I was working at, where we clearly communicated for where the parents should go, and they clearly did not listen. So I understand the need, and I think for type A personalities like us, we just want to know, but quite honestly, Dr. Driscoll's spot on. We communicate, you have to learn to respond to that communication, and you have to follow directions. I want to thank the bus drivers, the teachers and staff, Care 7 support, and the SROs. I am a firm believer that safety is a team effort. And I've seen bus drivers who will not let kids off, even though they say, my mom said I could go to so-and-so's house. And they're like, nope, that's not the rules. And I appreciate that, even being the mom was like, hey, just go there. And then they're like, oh, that's right, that's the rules. So I apologize for that. But super grateful for all of the adults that play by the rules and do what they're supposed to do. I also want to give a shout out to a school that I was at on Friday. They obviously had just gone through a training exercise, because as the parents were leaving the cafeteria, whatever we call that now, gym, cafeteria thing, we were walking in trying to access the building that led us to the exit through the office. And all the parents were lined up there, and one of the dads is like, just open the door, just open the door. And the kid walks up and she's like, no, and walked away. And he's like, what's the deal? And then another mom was like, yeah, they just went through this training. You can't ask kids to do that nowadays. And he was just like, oh my gosh, how did I not think of that? Because we were raised in a different era. And I was super proud of that kid. And obviously the school had done their part to inform everybody as best as they can about that. And then last thing is actually for facilities, Mr. Farmer, as a teacher who's been asked to keep my door closed, and especially for the amount of schools that we now have that have upstairs, those classrooms are hot, especially nowadays. This season. And so if we can't have teachers open their doors to air it out, are we pumping more AC into those rooms so that those kids and teachers aren't as hot? Because I know when I teach, I'm like, sweating buckets, so.
Madam President, members of the board, if the rooms are hot, we are notified well in advance before any situation arises. They don't let us get away with having high temperatures. They're constantly calling us. But if there is, yeah, we're constantly moving air through these schools and through the classrooms.
Okay, because I do know that was a constant battle early on in my teaching career, that all of us veterans were like, no, I want to open my doors. And we had windows. Some people were really good at ignoring those requirements because we did not have supportive facilities. So thank you for that. I don't think anybody else have any questions. I really appreciate the time and effort at this. I know this is a scary topic, but obviously one we need to have. And I know that when it comes to age appropriateness, that's so vastly interpreted that, we have the pedagogy, but we also have, family opinions about what's appropriate for their kids to know about. So appreciate you being sensitive to that, and the support of Tempe Police Department is just invaluable. So thank you for that, and thank you for the presentation. Item 4.01, open call to the public. We have no blue cards, so we're going to move on to item 5.01, celebrate excellence. Dr. Driscoll.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight, I have a few items for Celebrate Excellence. On June 22nd, the Tempe Elementary Governing Board voted to rename Gillen Middle School to Geneva Epps Mosley Middle School, Hudson Elementary School to Joseph P. Spercali Elementary School, and Laird School to Cecil Shamley School. We're currently in the process of updating the school signage, marquees, murals, and sports uniforms as needed. We plan on having a ribbon-cutting event at each of those 3 schools once this process is completed, as we want to celebrate the new beginnings of each of these schools. We'll publicly share this event information when it is solidified, as our entire community will be invited. So stay tuned, we will get that out. It has been pretty crazy to start the school year trying to get all this stuff out, but a lot of the schools already have what I would say their bling, t-shirts, stationery, pins, but the big stuff like the marquees and the school, that's taken some time. So we're on it, but we will have a proper ribbon cutting celebration for each one of those 3 schools. On Tuesday, August 16th, Tempe Police brought backpacks filled with school supplies as well as pizzas for our entire 5th grade class at Frank Elementary. It was a great afternoon that gave students the opportunity to begin relationships and interact with our local police officers. We appreciate the ongoing support of Tempe PD and their willingness to connect with our students. This year's theme, Create a Legacy, and what better example of creating a legacy than our own staff members recruiting their own children to come work for us in our schools. This photo on the left is Mia, and I hope I say this, Venezuela Ponce, 5th grade teacher at Aguilar, and her daughter, Angelica Ponce, a general music and choir teacher at Cecil Shamley School. This is Angelica's first year as a teacher in TD3. The photo to the right is Mark, and I'm gonna butcher this, Arelica? Sorry, Mark. Behavior intervention at Aguilar Elementary, and his daughter, Mallory Arelica, SEALS teacher at Nevitt Elementary. This is Mallory's first year as a teacher in TD3. She previously served in our district as an instructional specialist. All right, and with that, I have one more. If you can, Chris, cue up the video. Tonight we'll celebrate a very special school, a learning community that has been referred to as a home away from home for students. A school that prides itself on having a team of caring and dedicated school employees that believe that every child should have the opportunity to do amazing things. Thank you, Arredondo Elementary, for your commitment to building a strong sense of community for our students, staff, and family, and for consistently placing an emphasis on student excellence and achievement. For these reasons and for many more, it is my honor to share with you that changing the world begins with Arredondo Elementary.
Changing the world. Change that begins with students. Change that begins with community. It begins with parents. It begins with employees. At Tempe Elementary Schools, changing the world begins with me.
When you walk into an Arredondo classroom, you will see a joy of learning. You will see it protruding from these teachers, from the students. Everybody's excited to be in the classroom, ready to learn, and you will also see a lot of love and kindness.
I think we have such a strong sense of community here. Whether you're a teacher, a student, a parent, a classified staff, you're welcome and definitely feel a part of the team.
Arredondo Elementary School is a family, and it's amazing to see all of the teachers and parents and kids really show that every day.
I can't tell you how much I enjoy and appreciate Arredondo Elementary. They have this positive, welcoming energy. They are such loving people. They provide such hands-on support with their curriculum.
When you walk through an Arredondo classroom, you're going to see students who are interacting with one another. They're learning from one another. You're going to see teachers who have a role that's more like a facilitator, and the students are actually taking charge of their own learning. That's what you're going to see a lot of here at Arredondo.
The teachers are kind, they're patient with me when I'm stuck on a problem. Maybe I'm not getting it, but they stay patient.
The students here at Arredondo, they just have such a bright energy. They have fun while doing the lessons.
It also helped me meet new people, and I never felt like I was left out of things.
Arredondo has really helped me grow because ever since I walked in the front door through kindergarten, I've learned so many life skills that I haven't had. Learned focus, taking your time, making sure you do it efficiently, hard work, and most of all, responsibility.
We are trying to challenge students to think and use those higher order thinking skills when they are doing their work, whether it's in math or whether it's in language arts. It's not just base level learning. We take them to the highest heights, and I think that's what's special about Arredondo is that we expect excellence from the students.
At Arredondo, we believe that every child should have the opportunity to do amazing things, and that we, as all the collective grown-ups here, have a responsibility to help them do that. And we are responsible for creating a safe and home away from home environment.
When you hear the saying, it takes a village, I feel like they're talking about Arredondo, and everybody's in it to be that great village that's helping our community, helping our students, helping our staff. We all really love Arredondo, and you can see it just by walking in the door.
And that concludes my Celebrate Excellence for this evening.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to Arredondo for being highlighted. Item 6.01, approval of consent agenda. May I have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Ms. Ewers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I'd like to highlight a couple of different things on the consent agenda, several different things, actually. We have several donations. We have Aguilar Elementary, who got a donation from Committee for Children. We have Aguilar and Wood, who got 9 pallets of backpacks from State Farm. We have approval for Aguilar Arredondo Nevitt, who got donations from Snow Teeth Whitening, backpacks from them. Fees and McCamey and Shamley all got backpacks from Teacher Closets. Oh, and 3 Teacher Closets, from Stuff the Bus, AZTV7, and United Way. Frank Elementary got tables from Micro Age. That's pretty cool. And McCamey Academy of International Studies got a donation from Donors Choose. Meyer got donations of microscopes, and the Native American program got 6 boxes of assorted school supplies from Microtronics. So thank you for all those partners. We are indebted to your generosity and helping us move forward for our kids. Also in consent agenda is item 6.12, and I need to add a statement to that. The governing board authorizes the superintendent to execute any necessary addendum to the IGA that authorizes additional payments or services related to this agreement. This is mentioned in the IGA itself, but just need to be reiterated. Item 7.01, discussion, consideration, and possible approval for of the general education teacher to special education teacher tuition assistance Get Set contract with the Arizona Department of Education. May I have a motion to discuss?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Mr. Lemon. Any questions or comments on this item? Mr. Lemon.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm glad to see this item. I mean, we need to work as hard as we can to help teachers, both help the kids, but help themselves and to progress through their profession. And I think this is one way of doing it. I have a relative who's a special education teacher in the LA district, and I know it's tough with the elementary kids. So I think this is great, and also it's something that we need to stress with our teachers, take advantage of the opportunities that are here. This is a tuition reimbursement, I believe, but there are other programs where you just show up and you get money. Well, you got to do some stuff, but so this is good. I was glad to see it. Thank you, Madam President.
Ms. Yours.
Madam President, do you mind if I ask Mr. Driscoll just to do like a brief, because this is a very special program, and the fact that we got the opportunity for it, would you just tell them what it's about so the public knows that we're continuing to educate?
I won't do it justice, but I have Ms. Snellenkoff here that can give the public all the details about this one.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Driscoll. So the Get Set program is through ADE, and there was an email sent probably mid-year last year to us as directors of special education to encourage students or encourage teachers that hold a general education certification to apply for tuition assistance to become special education certified because of the staffing shortage. So that was the opportunity. So I put it out in the news to Tempe, and it was kind of a first come first basis because the district only gets one approval. So Annabelle Small Canyon, who's a current general education teacher at Fuller, is going to get her certification, a teacher of the deaf, of hard of hearing. And so then they're committed to teaching for us for 2 years following the end of the certification.
And that's at no cost, so they don't have to go through an educational system and pay.
Right, and they can manage their classes, so it's manageable while they're obviously working full-time. I think they have to hold 6 credits, and so she'll start in the spring.
Excellent, it's something we really need. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Snellenkoff. So we have a motion and a second. Are we ready for a vote? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye, motion passes. Item passes, excuse me. Item 8.01, board members' points of information. Mr. Lemon.
Thank you, Madam President. In my job at ADOT, I serve on a technical committee with Arizona State University Center for Bioremediated and Bio-Inspired Geotechnics. So that's pretty highfalutin sort of stuff, but they have a grant from the National Science Foundation. We work with three other universities in this process. So it's a national program. In the summertime, there's experiences for high school students to experience research in the labs, but there's also for teachers, there's an experience for the summer program. They get a stipend. One of our teachers, Camille, was just an outstanding student in this process, and I was very pleased. And she actually wanted to quit teaching and take up geology, and so I was kind of, but I was very pleased. And then this week when we had our education subcommittee meeting, they talked about Camille is going to present at the Science Center on a STEM program and classes for other teachers in STEM. And so I'm just very proud of what Camille does. And I'm glad she's still teaching, and I hope that the parents that have their students in her classes appreciate what she's doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Ms. Yours?
First, I have to feel like the Wall Street Journal and do a retraction. I said Hudson earlier, I meant Spercali. Thank you. I will get used to it, but we've lived here since 1974 and in that neighborhood, so I've got all families working on it. The other thing I'd like to thank is the Sergeant and Ernie and Care 7 for being here today. We have some families who are really struggling. And like I was telling you earlier, I'm just grateful because I'll get the communication pretty quickly of something that's happening in our neighborhoods, and I feel a little better knowing that we have a Care 7 support team for our families. And I do want to reiterate that we have that. I know that I've said in the past that parents can call our district and get help for so many matters. And it doesn't matter your income level. Life throws at you things that are very unexpected, and it's not always perfect. And there are resources that our community has because our community really loves our kids. So I wanted to thank you for being here. I also was a little fly on the wall at something, and I'd like to congratulate all of our teachers, all of our staff, and Dr. Driscoll. I was at an event, and there was probably maybe, I was trying to figure it out, but at least a dozen of our teachers. And they were talking about how happy they were, and some of them were new and coming from other districts, so they were like chit-chatting, right? After they got done, full disclosure, I went to them and I said, hey, I am going to share your story, if you don't mind. So they gave me permission. And they are just grateful. They said the environment in this district is healthy, and yeah, it's stressful, but there's not added stress. So Dr. Driscoll, that's to your credit. And that the kids are so happy. Now, mind you, we've had a few years that we've had some struggling, right? No one's been happy. We've all been just scared or messed up or whatever, and that you still have a little bit of that. But they said that the energy and that the administration is supporting them more than they've felt in a long time. I'm sure that us being able to allow the budget to be pushed to them helps that. I wish we could have done more, but I think that they know we're on their side. So I just want to congratulate you all because I know that you probably don't always hear it. We all hear the complaints, right? And Ernie too, tonight I know that I'm like, safety, 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 rah, rah, rah. I'm grateful that it's you. So I just want to say congratulations and thank you, teachers. We're in a few weeks here. We're all kind of getting in our groove, but I haven't heard complaints. And trust me, we get complaints. So, and then, my gosh, this thing is not usually this thick, but it's thick because we had so many donations. So I'm glad that you read them out. Again, thank you to the community. Thank you for your support. Each one of those adds up, and it's stuff that we need, and it doesn't go lightly. So you're highly recognized, and I wanted to tell you thank you. Nutrition Services is up and running. Yay! So when you go on, there's an application for you to fill out for free and reduced lunch. I'm begging everyone to do that. Now, it does seem like an extra 5 minutes of your day, and some of us don't have it, but make it, because one, you may be surprised if you get accepted. Because you might think, oh no, I'm fine, $275 a day, I can do it, or whatever, and I'm just busy. But it also helps us to get funding that we need at our schools for so many things that we can't even go into today, but you filling out that application helps us support your child. So I just ask everyone, when you go in and you log in and you go to put money on an account or you go to pay, to please just push that button, spend a few minutes, do it, and then see where you stand. But even if you don't get free and reduced lunch, you did us a favor because you gave the demographics of our area so that they know what we need. If we don't do that, they don't know what we need. And then lastly, make sure that you talk to your kids about drugs, especially fentanyl. Thank you so much.
#fentanyl. Just a couple of things from me. I got communication early this week, I believe it was Sunday night or Monday, that we had a problem with buses and specifically drivers. Our buses are fine, it's the drivers. And I recall a conversation last year about bus drivers, and I think that we're at the point where we need to have that conversation again. From what I'm understanding from other districts as well as ours, that it's not about what we can pay, it's about who's willing to come. And so I just think that we're at the point that we need to have that conversation again. Also, I know that we are in the very early stages of the school year. And we often talk about social emotional learning and how important that is. It is part of our regular vernacular, but I would like to remind everybody that social emotional learning can often best be taught at recess and at lunch, giving kids the opportunity to run and play and be outside. The requirements of 2 full recesses, and you can't take those away from kids. And, you know, in my opinion, we should be out there more often, but I know that we also have seat time. But we can be up and active and moving and having our kids talk at lunch. I don't know any of us that don't eat and talk at the same time. So let's encourage that so that kids can really strengthen those social skills, which make them healthier and happier. And then hopefully we can avoid having a generation who just looks at screens all the time, that they know how to talk because we let them talk at school. So just a reminder that sometimes social emotional learning does not require a curriculum, that it just requires us to say, go, play, have fun, talk to each other. So with that, I'm gonna read our announcements, item 9.01. There will be an East Valley School Board Consortium meeting on Monday, August 29th at 6 p.m. in the Mesa Public Schools Governing Boardroom. There will be an Agenda Committee meeting on Wednesday, August 31st at 11:30 a.m. Labor Day is Monday, September 5th. All district schools and offices will be closed. There will be an executive session on Wednesday, September 7th at 5:30 p.m. and a regularly scheduled governing board meeting at 7 p.m. in the Karen Arredondo Governing Boardroom. The 46th Annual ASBA Law Conference will be held Wednesday, September 7th through Friday, September 9th at the JW Marriott Camelback Inn. The 2022 ASBA Delegate Assembly will be held Saturday, September 10th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the JW Marriott Camelback Inn. Item 10.01, meeting adjournment. May I have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Ms. Ewers. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes, item passes, meeting is adjourned.